Hi there, my name is Jack Lamb. I use they, them, theirs pronouns, and I am the presenter for the Suicide Prevention and Resilience Workshop for Contra Costa Health Services. I'm an associate psychotherapist here at Yellow Chair Collective, and I am also a survivor of suicide myself, meaning that I have attempted suicide and thought about suicide in the past. And part of why I would like to share that is really just to destigmatize the topic of suicide, as I know it can be scary and hard to talk about, but rather to know that it's okay to kind of broach the subject, which is a big part of the presentation for suicide prevention today. So one of the things that we've covered in this session is that people who think about suicide tend to be experiencing overwhelm and emotional pain. So emotional pain to the point of not knowing how to cope with it, and therefore suicidal ideation tends to come up as almost a quote-unquote ultimate solution to the pain that they are experiencing to get rid of it, right? And when we think about talking about suicide, we want to try to avoid the language of committing suicide, as committing kind of implies a crime and again adds to the stigma of talking about suicide. So using terminology instead, such as dying by suicide or killing yourself, which is pretty direct and still understandable. When we are talking about suicide, we want to make sure that we are transparent, that we voice our concerns. So maybe, I notice you've been really down lately, I'm worried about you, and I'm just wondering, are you thinking about suicide? Or staying with them in the dark place, so that means staying with them to explore the pain. Thank you for being honest with me. I know it's not easy to talk about, but how long have you been feeling this way? And then normalizing suicidal ideation as an understandable response to overwhelming pain, right? You must be in a lot of pain to feel like life isn't worth living anymore. Some things that we try to avoid when talking about suicide is to use indirect or judgmental language, like, you're not thinking of doing something stupid, are you? Or jumping to problem solving, trying to guilt the person or make them promise not to kill themselves, or fall into toxic positivity. So just saying like, oh, cheer up, look on the bright side. So the questions that you can practice in terms of asking someone about suicide are listed in the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, or the CSSRS. So things like, have you wished you were dead or wished you could go to sleep and not wake up? Have you had any thoughts of actually killing yourself? Have you thought about how you might do this? So just some ideas of how you can kind of broach the topic and stay in the dark place. Finally, we talked about the suicide safety plan, which is a tool that we use in being able to keep someone who's going through suicidal ideation stay safe, even if it's just for a day or a few hours, right? The safety plan comprises of 6 parts: the warning signs, internal coping strategies, people and places of distraction, people whom they can ask for help from, professionals, making the environment safer, and then the bonus question of a reason for living, which doesn't have to be a huge purpose in life, but it could be a small thing that carries someone through the day. For example, their pet, or the smell of coffee, or a TV show that they're really looking forward to watching. So I encourage you to check out the Suicide Severity Rating Scale assessment, as well as the Suicide Safety Plan if you can find a template, just to familiarize yourself with the resources. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch this today.